There is a passage in the Quran that looks like a mistake. It describes a group of men who fell asleep in a cave, and it says they stayed for 300 years. Then the text adds 3 words, and add 9. It reads like a correction. But 300 years on the solar calendar, the one used in the Western world, equals exactly 309 years on the lunar calendar, the one used in Islam. The Quran appears to be giving both measurements in a single sentence. That is one of 4 moments in the text where a single word, a number, or a description that seems ordinary on the surface turns out to be hiding something that was not understood until centuries later. A verse about 2 oceans meeting describes a phenomenon modern oceanography did not document until the 20th century. A chapter about iron uses a word meaning sent down from above instead of created, which is exactly how iron arrived on Earth. And a city mentioned once and never explained, dismissed as a myth for over 1,000 years, was located by a satellite that found it buried in the desert. The first one is visible from space. In Surah Ar-Rahman, the 55th chapter of the Quran, there are 2 verses about water. The text says, God released 2 seas that meet together. Between them is a barrier that neither of them transgresses. 2 bodies of water that meet but do not mix. A barrier between them that neither one crosses. At the Strait of Gibraltar, where the Atlantic Ocean meets the Mediterranean Sea, there is a boundary visible to the naked eye. The 2 bodies of water differ in salinity, temperature, and density. Where they meet, they form a sharp visible line. The denser, saltier Mediterranean water flows beneath the lighter Atlantic water. They sit side by side, touching, but they do not blend. Oceanographers call this a halocline. The same phenomenon occurs where rivers empty into oceans. Fresh glacial meltwater meets the salt water of the open sea, and the 2 hold their boundary. In underwater cave systems in Mexico and the Caribbean, divers swim through haloclines so sharply defined they look like a glass wall suspended in the water. This was not described by Western oceanography until well into the modern era. The mechanisms behind haloclines, density differentials driven by salinity and temperature, required instruments and scientific frameworks that did not exist in the 7th century. But the deeper layer is not just the phenomenon, it is the word. The Quran uses barzakh for the barrier between the 2 seas. That word appears in only 2 other places in the entire text. Both times, it describes the barrier between life and death, the space between this world and the next, the boundary that no soul can cross back over. The Quran used the same word for an oceanographic boundary and for the boundary of death itself. Whether that is literary artistry, theological symbolism, or something else depends on who is reading. The text does not explain the connection. It simply uses the word and moves on. That precision in a single word is striking enough. But the next passage does the same thing with a single verb, and the implications reach beyond the earth entirely. The 57th chapter of the Quran is called Al-Hadid. It means the iron. In verse 25, the text says that God sent down iron, in which there is great strength and benefits for people. The word is anzalna. We sent it down. The Quran does not say iron was created, formed, or placed on earth. It says it was sent down from above. Why would a 7th century text use that specific word? Because iron is not produced by our sun. The nuclear fusion inside a star, the size of ours, does not generate enough energy to forge iron atoms. Iron is created in the cores of stars, far more massive than the sun, and it is scattered across space when those stars explode. The iron in the Earth's crust, in your blood, in every steel beam and engine block, arrived here from outside the solar system, delivered by meteorites during the early formation of the planet. The Quran's word choice, sent down rather than created on Earth, matches what astrophysics did not confirm until the 20th century. Then there are the numbers. The chapter about iron is chapter 57. The most common stable isotope of iron, iron 57, has an atomic mass of 57. Some scholars have also noted that the word hadid appears to be the 26th unique word in the chapter, and iron's atomic number on the periodic table is 26. Whether these numerical alignments are intentional, coincidental, or dependent on how you count is a matter of active debate. The counting methodology changes depending on which scholar is doing the counting. Some dismiss it entirely. Others call it statistically impossible to ignore. The Quran, as usual, offers no explanation. The numbers are either there or they are not. It depends on who is looking. If you are finding this interesting, subscribe. This channel examines what is hidden inside the Quran and shows what is actually there. There is a new one every week, but the most precise example is still waiting. Back to the passage that looks like a mistake. Surah Al-Kahf is the most widely recited chapter in Islam. Hundreds of millions of Muslims read it every Friday. The story at its center describes young men who fled persecution by hiding in a cave and falling asleep for what the text says was 300 years. Then the text adds the phrase, and add 9. That phrasing has puzzled readers for centuries. Why not just say 309? Why state one number and then correct it? The answer may be in the calendars. The Islamic calendar that marks the months on mosque walls from Jakarta to Cairo is lunar. The Roman calendar that Julius Caesar imposed on his empire was solar. A lunar year is roughly 11 days shorter than a solar year, and over 3 centuries those missing days add up to exactly 9 years. The Quran appears to state 301 calendar, and then immediately provide the conversion for the other. Both numbers are correct simultaneously. The sentence is not a mistake or a correction. It is a dual measurement, hiding in plain sight inside the most widely read chapter in Islam. The implications of that take a moment to absorb. Multiple countries claim to have the actual cave. In Amman, Jordan, visitors walk inside a hillside chamber that has been venerated for centuries. In Ephesus, Turkey, another site draws its own stream of believers, but the cave has never been the point of this chapter. Scholars who study the structure of Surah Al-Kahf point out that the chapter contains 4 stories, and every one of them is about the limits of what humans can know. The sleepers did not know how long they slept. A traveler did not know what lay beyond a barrier. A prophet did not understand his companion's actions until they were explained afterward. The 309 verse fits the pattern. It hands you 2 numbers. Both are correct, and neither one tells you what the passage is actually about. So far, every hidden layer has been textual: a word, a verb, a number. The last one is different. It is physical, and for 13 centuries, nobody believed it existed. Surah Al-Fajr, the 89th chapter, contains 3 verses about a city called Iram, a city of lofty pillars, the like of which had never been created in all the land, and then it was destroyed. That is the entire account. For over 1,000 years, there were no ruins, no artifacts, and no trace. T.E. Lawrence searched for it in southern Arabia and never found it. He called it the Atlantis of the Sands. Then, in 1992, a research team using NASA satellite radar penetrated the surface of the Rub al-Khali Desert in Oman's Dhofar region. Beneath the sand, they found the outlines of a buried settlement. Excavations at the site, known locally as Ubar, uncovered a fortified structure with large stone columns that had collapsed inward when the limestone ground beneath them gave way. Whether Ubar is the Aram of the Quran remains open. The columns match. The collapse matches. The location fits the geography of early Arabian trade routes. But the excavation has not produced enough to close the argument. The Quran gives Aram 3 verses. It describes a civilization so certain of its own permanence that it believed nothing could bring it down. And then something did. 1 verse on the city's greatness, 2 on what followed. The text was more interested in the lesson than the proof. It was never trying to send you to Oman. It was trying to make you ask what happens to civilizations that believe they are too big to fall. 4 passages. A barrier between 2 oceans is described with the same word used for the boundary between life and death. A metal, the text says, was sent down from above, which is exactly how it arrived on Earth. A number that looks like a mistake until you convert between 2 calendars. And a city mentioned once, never explained, and found underground by satellite 1,300 years later. In each case, the surface reading is the one that gets taught. But beneath each one, there is a layer that was not visible until the tools to see it finally existed. The Quran does not explain these connections. It never does. It places them in the text and moves on. Whether they are evidence of something beyond human authorship or a series of coincidences inside a 7th century book is a question the text leaves entirely to the reader. If you want to see the 3,000-year-old body the Quran says was preserved on purpose, there is a mummy sitting behind glass in a museum in Cairo right now, and that video is on screen now.